you're someone who loves weird cars, like I do, you of course have to be aware of Citroën. They made one of the first really successful front-wheel drive cars, the Traction Avant. They made amazing cars like the SM, which was like a spaceship when it came out. It raised and lowered, had hydraulics and all kinds of amazing things. They've always been an innovative company, and they've always done things their own way. And I want to take the time to do something special for Citroën because
it's the 100th anniversary of Citroën.
Welcome to a special episode of Jason and Auto Drives. The Citroën I want to focus on today is the one that I think might be the most famous. It's the 2CV, the 2 Chevaux. This is a car that was designed to compete literally with horses and wagons. It was a car for French farmers. It was a car that had to be able to haul casks of wine and potatoes over rough fields, and as such had to be designed to be as rugged and easy to use and cheap as possible. It had to be also the most Spartan, minimal car that you could ever imagine. There's probably never been a car before or since that's as simple and basic as a 2CV. Let's look inside and you can see exactly what I'm talking about. As soon as you open the door in a 2CV, you know exactly what you're getting into. The windows don't roll down, they just fold up in half, and a little rubber ring is just holding them in place because that's the easiest way to make an opening window. And that same idea goes throughout the entire car. The seats, for example, they're just a metal pipe around a bunch of rubber bands and a little fabric cover. It's basically a lawn chair. It pretty much is a lawn chair because you can yank the thing out and cram it on your lawn and have a picnic lunch right outside the car. Or you could just yank them out entirely in case you had to carry something huge, which you could carry because there's no roof in this thing. There's just a fabric covering over here, and the reason it's there is not just so you can get all the wonderful sunshine, it's so you can carry huge things like grandfather clocks and tree trunks or whatever the hell else it is you need to haul in a car like this. And that same idea goes everywhere. The dashboard, for example. If you're hot, there's a little bit of a flap that opens up. There's no fancy vent system. There's just a little door and a flap. And if you need to use the wipers, you just have this knob right here. And if you're feeling super fancy, there's actually a cable from the speedometer that drives the wipers. Because there's no motor here. Because what are you? A sheik? Some kind of sultan with a harem who has motor-driven wipers? No, you're just a French peasant getting by any way you can. And the only other instrument is a little ammeter to make sure you have electricity. But even if you didn't have electricity, that's not going to stop you because you have a starting crank, so you can still get going. This thing is a miracle of just the absolute minimum of what it takes to get you driving. And that's kind of why I love it. So it's not just the roof that was made of canvas on this car. The trunk lid on the early generations wasn't even metal, because who needs a metal trunk lid when you can just roll up a good sheet of canvas and it's perfectly fine. You can get your stuff in there, you can close it on up, it's fine, it's good enough. So Otto, we've talked a lot about the 2CVs, and we looked at them, but I feel like to really understand a car, we've got to drive it, right? That's how the soul of the car gets communicated to us. So we have this 1954 2 Chevaux. What do you say we take it for a spin?
Yeah.
Okay, but before we go, I'm just trying to remember, how many horsepower did they say it had?
9.
9? 0, 9? Less than 10? Oh man. I'll admit, I kind of really like driving this thing, even though it is so crude, but I guess actually that's why I like driving it, it is so crude. Like, the speedometer, I've seen bicycles that have a more like substantial speedometer than this thing. How do you like the seat?
It feels like one of those like chairs with like that you sit on the beach kind of.
Yeah, like a beach chair, right. It basically is a beach chair, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's amazing that we're actually moving as well as we are, considering we're literally in like a tin shed on a funny little pan, suspended on bouncy wheels. And there's all kinds of interesting things it has, like inboard brakes, which we can look at, and the way that the whole suspension is set up, the front wheels and the rear wheels are like connected on the same spring. It's actually really crazy. Although you can feel it, but it's kind of hard to picture it. And the shifter too, like it looks weird. Like why is this second gear and why is this third gear? Because it doesn't look like a regular pattern that you'd think of, but it kind of is. There's gotta be a better way I can show you how all that stuff works. We should like look under the hood or something. Maybe open it up a little so we can see just how all this crazy stuff works and why it feels the way it does. You know, I feel like there's all kinds of cool things we felt while we were driving, like the weird shift linkage and how the suspension worked, but it's just so hard to see it, right? There's like just too much stuff in the way. Hey, wait, Otto, give me your wrench. I got an idea, hold on. And there. All right, we did it. I think this is gonna make everything a lot easier to see how all the interesting stuff works. You know, we probably could have done it quicker if you didn't insist on me reupholstering it, but whatever, it looks pretty good. Hop in, let's give it a drive and watch how everything goes. Now that we've gone through all the hard work to get that cumbersome body off, I can finally show you how this crazy shifter setup works, and yes, in case you're wondering, I do like to explain things as loudly as humanly possible. When you're normally watching it on the dash, it's hard to understand. You're pushing and pulling and moving around, but here you see everything. When you're moving the knob side to side like this, like twisting it, you're just moving the gear lever side to side. So if I want to go into overdrive, which is fourth, I just twist it, which moves that way and push it forward, and there you go. If I want to go back down into third, I let it rotate back, pull back. It all makes so much more sense when you can just see it. And then you have things like the inboard brakes. Usually you see that on race cars, so reduce unsprung weight in the wheels. But here, this is an economy car, and they decided to do it anyway. You can see the suspension, how it bounces up and down. And the suspension's fascinating too. So there's a spring horizontally below us. And when your wheel goes over a big bump, like if we put it over here, it's actually setting up the spring to tighten up the rear wheel. So when the rear wheel hits it, it's already ready to take the bump. Ford has a system for pothole mitigation that does something similar, and they're using all kinds of computers and sensors to send information from the front wheel to the back. Citroën was doing it 50 years ago or more with just a big spring in a can. It's brilliant. The setup is brilliant. The origins of the 2CV were absolutely humble, and the engineering was really pretty crude, if clever. But like so many crude and clever things, there's so much more to driving a 2CV. You know what, we're gonna go check out some factory variations that Citroën made on the 2CV chassis, and then we're gonna check out some even weirder stuff in a few upcoming episodes. So I think we got all kinds of good things coming up for our 100th anniversary of Citroën special. So we got more exciting Jason and Otto drives. 9? 9? 9?
Yeah!
9 horsepower?
Yeah!